variety pack. Food and friends with Canada's best. From east to west, there and back. Eat North Variety Pack. 'Cause variety's the spice of life.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Eat North Variety Pack. If you haven't watched the show before, please make sure to subscribe. You can hit that button below. Our show happens every Thursday night and it's a mixed bag. We talk food, music, drinks, and a ton more. I'm super excited for the show tonight. But first, let's bring on my two co-hosts, Deepi Harish and Mairlyn Smith. Hello, you two.
Hello.
Great to see you.
Mayor?
Well, it was my birthday yesterday. So I had some balloons. Okay, it was big. I thought I'd try both. Anyway,
I have a quick question for you both. So, Top Chef Canada just announced their new season, which premieres on April 19th on Food Network Canada. I'm a huge fan of the Top Chef Canada franchise, partially because I feel like Canada doesn't have a lot of celebrity chefs compared to a lot of other countries. So I think a show like Top Chef Canada does a good job of picking different chefs in different cities and helping make them potentially, I hate the word celebrity, but just putting them on a national stage, so to speak. But now we're heading into the 9th season of the show. It's been on for almost 10 years. And do you ever watch shows like that? And do you ever wonder if star power sort of fades over time? Like if you win season 9 of Top Chef Canada, will you be as well known or famous as someone that won season 1 or 2? Mairlyn?
it's a really great question because celebrity is something that, unless you have the fortitude to hang in there and keep pursuing your celebrityness, you're going to disappear in this world of social media. And so I don't think it's so much a comment on that the first season was so exciting or so new that we all latched onto it. I just think there's so many more people and so many other competition shows, and there's so much more of it that it's harder to claim the celebrity and hang on to it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's a great point. Deepi?
I'm going to disagree with you guys. If a show is exciting and there's momentum built into the show, and the chef that was on it did something super creative, something super innovative, then they're going to be remembered for that. And you got to remember that I feel like a lot of shows get their second wind a lot later in life. Mm. So I think if a star was a star, they'll continue to be known for that thing that they created that was like still a memory in someone's mind during their season. No,
I think that's a really great point. And one thing I also want to point out too is for season 9, for the first time in Top Chef franchise history, so in the history of the show in America or Canada, the Canadian franchise has a non-binary competitor, and that's the first time it's happened. I think that is really amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I look forward to seeing how it all plays out.
Sure. Okay, so I have a question for you guys. Mm-hmm. So I'm super excited that Jenna's going to be on in a bit. I'm a big fan of Below Deck. I binge watch it all the time. And the fact that they do food service on a yacht, I find that to be super difficult, super unusual setting to serve food. I was going to ask you guys, have you guys ever had an experience where you've either served food or you've been served food in somewhat of an unusual setting? Well, let me answer this first. I thought about this, and I think
you go. It's your show. Take it away, Deepi.
I'm going to answer first. So I feel like it's an unusual setting for here, but not in third world countries. So I went to this place. I lived in Bali for a while, and I went to this like 4-star restaurant that was literally on the road. We're talking cars would graze by me. They were 5 inches from hitting my skin, hitting my arm. But that's just so normal there. And they don't even bat an eyelash to that happening. And fun fact, I went to the place that I'm thinking of in particular. It's called Naughty Nuri's. And it was actually a place that Anthony Bourdain went and said he had the best margaritas he's ever had outside of New York. And that's why I went there. And it was actually like the best margaritas and the best ribs I've ever had in my life.
That's interesting. I think for me, one of the most unusual experience I've had, I'm a terrible server. I hate serving people food even in my own house. I like cooking it, but serving is a whole other story. But in Winnipeg, and this is why I'm excited that Raine Hamilton, the singer from Winnipeg, is on the show. I'm going to ask her later if she's been to this. But Winnipeg used to have an amazing pop-up restaurant that happened on the river. It was called Raw Almond, and it happened in January, February, typically for about 3 weeks. And this was a pop-up restaurant literally in the middle of a river, frozen river in Winnipeg in the middle of the winter. And it was the wildest experience. The food was often really top notch, but it just always blew my mind that servers were out there. And there was even a kitchen set up and they could run a full service in the middle of a frozen river. It blew my mind.
Yes, that reminds me of there was a pop-up thing here in Toronto under the Gardiner, which is an expressway here.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of bubble igloos that you were, like they were plastic. And yeah, we were in an igloo that was really far away from where the food was coming. And so, like by the time we left the event, everybody in the front half had been gone for like an hour. So it was an interesting concept. You were there with people you didn't know. And yeah, I think when they ironed out the glitches, it was interesting. And it was kind of fun to sort of, stare at people staring at you as you were eating igloos. So,
Mayor, how was the food for that experience? Because it was a big thing in Toronto. I never got a chance to go.
Yeah, you know what? The food was good, but it was the fact that we were so far away from the kitchen that by the time we got everything, it was kind of cold.
Mm-hmm.
They apologized profusely that it was the first night and they would iron it out. So I don't know if they did, but I mean, it all was fantastic. It just wasn't hot. So
well, I feel like if I opened a restaurant, I would probably be full of apologies my first night too. there's that. Anyway, I am so excited for not Below Deck, because I watch it all the time, but I'm excited for our first guest, Jenna MacGillivray. She was the chief stew on last year's season of Below Deck Sailing Yacht. We're going to show a little teaser from season 1 and then chat with her about food, drink, and what it's like to serve on a boat, as Deepi mentioned.
Missed the first season of Below Deck Sailing Yacht?
I'm still trying to process it.
Binge the series from the beginning.
Are you kidding me?
This is a big deal.
I always have happy tears. That's a great feeling, and I want it to keep going.
I'm staying on this boat, period.
Yeah.
Below Deck Sailing Yacht on Slice. Stream season 1 anytime on the new Global TV app.
Jenna, thank you so much for being on the show today. We're excited to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. We were chatting before we went live, but you were actually in Sault Ste. Marie right now, and I actually drove through there. I drove across Canada with my friend who moved to Toronto in the past year, pardon me, and I was dying to eat a panzerotti there because my friend in yours, Jamie Penno, always swears by them, and they're amazing. They're like this jumbo pizza pop, and I've never had them, and they're the signature food of Sault Ste. Marie, more or less, right?
Yeah, I'd say everyone really loves a good panzerotti here, including myself. I can't say no, but they're so gluttonous and rich and heavy, and you eat it and you're kind of just like, but that's what makes it worth it, right?
Oh, well, I feel like during the pandemic, all we want is comfort food 24/7, or at least I do.
Oh, yeah, I do too.
So I know, like Deepi mentioned, she's a huge fan of Below Deck. Who isn't? All of the spin-offs in the main series they're all fun to watch. But one thing that I really love about the show, maybe you can shed some light on this, is that I never really it never occurred to me how service on a yacht would work, or any boat, until I watched that show. So how do you even begin to get into that industry in the first place?
So I had a service industry background. So I managed restaurants in Ireland, and I managed them in Canada as well. I worked in Toronto. I worked at the Esplanade Beer Market, for those of you who know that. And so I had quite a history of service.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got started in Barcelona, Spain. And it was just a matter of actually like walking around the docks and saying like, please, sir, hire me. And eventually I got hired. And it's kind of one of those industries that you need to have a certain kind of personality. You have to get along with people pretty easily. There's no time for bullshit. There's no time for tears. You just have to kind of like suck it up and get stuff done. And so they know certain people that can handle that and certain people that can't.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they hire people that can't. And yeah, so that's how I got into it. And I loved it, obviously.
Mm-hmm. What a great way to see the world.
Yes, that was the best part.
Yes.
Not the working part.
It never is.
Yeah.
Jen, I want to ask you. Hi, big fan of the show.
Hey, thank you.
Watched it so many times. It's a nice escape, you know.
Yes, it is.
I want to know what stands out in your mind as one of the most demanding, craziest food requests from one of the guests that have been on the yacht.
Well, if we're talking about on the actual TV show, it was the dudes, the bros that came on that just kept yelling like shrimp. We want shrimp, cocktail shrimp. And I just think in general, what you could summarize it as is people just expect you to have literally like all types of food on the boat at all times. Mm-hmm. And it's like when they actually come down and see the galley and see the actual space, they're like, oh, it's actually a boat with not, it's not a restaurant that can cater to 300 people a night. And so I think that it's just people asking for things that aren't realistic. Like, I want this. And then if you say, sorry, we actually didn't provision for that because you didn't make that a request, and then they kind of like throw a temper tantrum. And obviously we always do our best. And I think like as a yacht stewardess, what you're doing is if anyone asks for anything, you make it happen. So you run ashore, you might go to another yacht that's anchored out nearby, and you say, please, can we borrow this? And then you give them back something later. So it's kind of just like you just make things happen whenever you can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you wouldn't know that it isn't a 5-star kitchen. I mean, you guys make masterpieces in that kitchen.
I certainly don't, but yes. The chefs do. And I know like the constraints that they have in there, the space, it's just insane. And I don't feel sorry for them because I can't think of what to make for just myself every night. So to come up with, 3 meals per day along with hors d'oeuvres and snacks throughout the day, it's just the creativity that goes into that is pretty impressive. So yeah.
And from what's aired on the show, how much would you say is accurate to actual yachting life, or would you say it's embellished for entertainment?
I would say the difference would just be that if it's not TV yachting, you just have more time. So there'd be more. Mm-hmm. First of all, I would hire my own crew. We hire our own crew. I think the crew for below deck is a little bit mixed, so that obviously you have some conflict and mm-hmm. it's more interesting to watch. But we would hire our own crew, and then the turnover of the charters wouldn't be as crazy as it was. So it sometimes can be, but I've worked on a lot of private yachts too. So on private yachts, it could just be just the owners that come on periodically, and it's not that like bang, 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 new guests every mm-hmm. 2 days. So I think that's what the difference is. But some yachts do function like that, and most people don't last that long on those yachts because yes, you're making the tips, but you're also like, I can't maintain this kind of schedule long term. Mm-hmm. So then they end up quitting. So mm-hmm. yeah, it was 6 weeks for the filming of Below Deck. So 6 weeks, I felt a ton of adrenaline. I got through it. I actually loved every moment of it. So for me, it was great.
Jenna's sister is a huge fan, and she said, "Hey, please say hello."
Oh, thank you.
Kathleen in Vancouver. All right, so yeah, it's a reality show, or maybe a little bit massage reality. And not naming any names, was there anybody that was absolutely somebody you just wanted to heave off the side?
Yes.
Mairlyn.
Absolutely. She won't be watching it. Her name is Madison. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I kept my lips tight for quite a long time, and I apologized to her so many times. And it was her nickname was Madison the Martyr, and it was she's just somebody who I would never ever hire, and I know that she would feel the same way about me, so that's fine. It's just I simply could not stand her. Mm-hmm. Everyone else I actually really enjoyed, even Parker, even though I made fun of him getting breastfed and everything. I really like Parker. He's a good person. Madison couldn't handle her.
Okay, and then on the same vein, come on, this is a cruise show. We're all very Was there anybody like that would actually, book the charter and then turn out to be a dud, like where you would hope that there would be some chemistry and it didn't work out, and would there have to be some massaging in, or do they just sort of work?
I think sometimes it's like, there were a couple guests that came on that were more low key, and I think then you just focus a little bit more on the crew. I mean, I'm not sure because I'm not a producer of the show, obviously, so I don't know what they're picking and choosing. But there were definitely some really nice guests that weren't dramatic, and that was quite lovely. And I also think that at times those lovely guests, like for example, there was a set of guests and one of them had terminal cancer, and that was not dramatic, but it was this beautiful focus and shift from like all the debauchery of stuff that really doesn't matter, like those fucking shrimp demanders, you know what I mean? So it's like, for me, those moments meant more to me, and I value those moments more personally when I'm watching it, because I resonate more with humans.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, call me crazy.
Well, speaking of travel moments, you have a podcast, Wild Loner, which I think is such a good name for a podcast, or potentially a show, or it's just a great name, great title. Yeah.
Thank you.
You talk all about your life experiences and travel experiences. So outside of yachting, what are some travel experiences that you really cherish?
Well, I've also been to Indonesia, to Bali. I've been quite a few times there. I've went a couple times. I went on a sailboat there with a boyfriend. I talk about that in one of my episodes on the podcast as well. I've been all over Europe, pretty much, like to every place in Europe. The Caribbean, most places in the Caribbean as well. There was just so many things too through yachting. Like, I mean, obviously I've traveled independently. And then when you travel with yachting, you just get to see these places because you're going by boat that other people just don't get to see or will never get to see. So that was never lost on me. I just always feel like I was so thankful and so grateful to see all of those awesome places. So yeah, I mean, places that I love the most: Australia, Indonesia. Those would be my top right now, and St. Bart's in the Caribbean.
I definitely share your wanderlust. I travel around the world when I can. Obviously, I'm hoping I can leave the country for a little bit at some point this year, fingers crossed. But isn't it funny, the sort of unspoken bond? I feel like when you meet a Canadian in another country in the middle of nowhere, don't you sort of have this odd connection? Like, I feel like Canadians and Australians have that too. They travel so much, but isn't it nice to meet a Canadian on the road unexpectedly?
It is nice, and I do like to try to like spread out of that too a little bit, because I like to have the different cultures and I like to learn everything. But yes, when you meet a Canadian and you have that, I just like anyone who I can meet who has the same sense of humor, and I think a lot of Canadians do have that dry sarcasm. So do the British people, and so anyone I can meet that has that same sense of humor, I'm like, high five, we are friends.
I love that. And last question before we let you go. In my travels, I have had a lot of terrible versions of poutine. This actually became a big thing on social media a couple weeks ago on The Bachelor, when a Bachelor contestant was serving poutine to The Bachelor and it looked abysmal. It got torn apart on social. But I find when I travel, I see poutine on menus and it's often terrible. So can you remember a terrible poutine you've had in another country?
I don't know that I've ever had it in another country, but I'm just going to tell you this. In Sault Ste. Marie also, we have a place called West Side Cafe, which is this really like little dive, and they have a whole poutine menu, and they have like spaghetti poutine, regular, like any kind of poutine you can imagine that they have on this menu. And I would say I'm not a huge fan of the spaghetti poutine, so that was in my own city.
Okay.
I'm a fan of the classic poutine.
Next time I'm in Sault Ste. Marie, I shall not have the spaghetti poutine, but I'll try something else.
Yeah, or you just put spaghetti on French fries and see how it tastes at your own house.
I feel like that does have potential, but that could be a conversation for a whole nother episode of Variety Pack.
A whole new episode.
Awesome. Jenna, it was so great to chat with you, and congrats on the podcast and all of your success.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to following along with the podcast Wild Loner, and obviously everyone, please make sure to follow Jenna on social media, and it was a pleasure having you on the show, and you're always welcome back here.
Thank you so very much. I really appreciate your time, and lovely to meet you all.
You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
That was a really fun conversation. I mentioned it before, but with Below Deck, it was just the processes of how they operate on a boat in terms of hospitality and service, I never really thought about that. So to me, Below Deck is, of course, if it's on Bravo, there's a touch of drama involved, of course. But to me, it's showing a side of the hospitality industry that I honestly never even thought about or knew existed.
Right. It was back to even what you said about the galley being so tiny, what the chefs have to do. That's really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
You're always putting out 5-star meals in there.
Mm-hmm. Well, not always. If you watch all the seasons, there are some bad chefs.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, yeah.
I will say her season had quite a good chef.
Yeah.
And but I'm really glad that I asked her if she wanted to throw anybody overboard, because you're in close quarters working with the same people. Like that's really hard. And so glad that I didn't want her to say a name, but good on her that she was like really authentic and came straight forward. So good.
And here's to hoping neither of you want to throw me virtually overboard. So
yeah, but you did feel very well with my balloons.
Well, shock value is everything, and I'm sorry, it takes more to shock me these days, Mairlyn.
You both sat there like you were stunned. Just like,
just like, what do we do?
Like,
well, anyway, I digress. It's time to move on to one of my favorite parts of our weekly show. We always feature a very talented Canadian musician, and tonight we have Raine Hamilton. We're going to see an acoustic performance of an upcoming single called Try, and then have a chat with the Winnipeg-based artist about food in Winnipeg and life and more.
Some days I feel it, a tap on the shoulder, awake and I open my eyes. And all that I know of this earthly arrangement, it hovers just out of my sight. All things reflecting the light to behold, stilling my body. Is this the place where we lay down our burdens, where all of our strengths are made clear, where all of our hearts will dance lilting courageous, where courage is born out of fear? Step now, my darling, one foot then the next, the earth will receive you. Lifting the weight of the mountain, rising up, feet upon the ground.
That is a gorgeous song. Raine Hamilton, thank you so much for being on the show with us tonight too.
Hey, well, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here and like a home at the same time.
Yes, well, that is the ups and downs of the pandemic, and it's nice to be able to do this kind of thing from our own homes for sure.
So much is possible.
Yes, 100%. I agree. And what I love about your music is beautiful, by the way. I know you've been putting out a couple singles so far, with more to come this year. But being a classically trained musician and then adding the folk music element, I feel like you have such a unique approach to creating a song. So how did you, well, actually I was reading about you and I saw that you are a child of parents who met in a rock band in the 70s. So I feel like music is in your blood. But outside of that, how did you decide to take this approach to your music?
I came upon this approach very organically. So I grew up, with singer-songwriters in my family, with my dad writing and honing songs in our living room just as a part of the, course of regular life. And with this like origin story of my family that, we started in this rock band and, I happened upon the scene that way. And what a cool connection to music just from like the very, very get-go. I had always been interested in the violin as a kid, so I had been really, really asking my parents, like, please, can we do this? Please, can we do this? And I was persistent enough, and they were accommodating, and let me start to take violin lessons at the age of 7, and that set me on a path to really studying that instrument and to study that at university eventually. So there was kind of these like two musical paths that I was on, like the singer-songwriter type path as modeled by my parents, and then this classical path that I'd also followed. So they're both very organic and natural parts of me. And that's why I think they make sense together in the context of this art.
I love that. And again, like I said, it makes your sound even so much more unique. It really helps you stand out. So with your musical trajectory, I guess, for the year, you're releasing a new single every month, give or take, for the year, right?
Yes, we have a whole album to release, and I've decided to do it one at a time because, in the absence of being able to tour and really offer the whole record at once to an audience and to people who are interested all over the place in person, I wanted to be very intentional in the way that I released it, and I wanted to offer like as many opportunities to connect as possible, especially in the absence of that live in-person connection. So we're going to go one by one, and I have a lot to share about them and a lot to say. They've all got a backstory. They're all dense with like meaning and experience and mountain imagery, and we're going to do that over the course of the year. And I mentioned mountain imagery because it is a concept album about mountains. And I wonder if that's something that you would know about, Dan, as a Calgarian.
Well, I on a clear day, I do see them and they are very beautiful. Yeah. So I appreciate that. I like the throwback. It's good.
I want to ask, what is your warm-up routine for playing the violin? Like we hear a lot about vocal warm-ups, but what is it like when you play a classical instrument?
Okay, that is a great question. I like to just go core strength all the way. To me, that's a really good warm-up for vocal warm-up and for the violin because so much of the movement of our body is connected there. So I'm a big fan of planks. I like to do some various kind of like twisting yoga moves to just get the core activated and mobile. And then I also, for the violin, have a series of hand exercises that I do, and I have learned them from a hand physiotherapist, an upper limb physiotherapist, and I have gone most of my life not knowing that was a profession or an expertise, but it is the best, and I just recommend to all of us to get the advice of those people, because most people have repetitive motions that are done with the hands, and they can be like the strain that is caused by that repetition can be mitigated with physiotherapy for just the longevity of our hands. And I think that is the best. So 5 stars to upper limb physiotherapy existing as a field of expertise. Highly recommend. So yeah, I have all these moves that I do.
I love that you gave her a plug. My son is a sports as a strength and conditioning coach, and he said most people's their injuries are because of repetition. So of course. Okay, my question that I'm just dying to know is that to add a cello, which for me is like, oh my God, my heart, and I was a dancer, so that between the American Sign Language and the cello. So did you orchestrate that all? Did you write the charts for that with your classical training? Did you want that melancholy? Because it's so, I mean, I was dancing in my head listening.
I love it. The melancholy, yeah, that's one color I think that the cello offers, and it is so versatile. It can bring anything. And how do we come up with those parts has a cool backstory. So the musicians in that video are my main trio mates. They are Quentin Bart and Nathaniel Felicitas, and we have been working together for years now. And our process has always been that I will show up with the song and the lyrics and like kind of the sections of it, and then we will feel it out together. And those parts that you're hearing are composed live in real time with all of us together. And it is just the coolest experience to trust each other and to to lead and to follow, and then to construct something that fits together in a really intricate way, always with the goal of serving the song beautifully foremost. So I did not write those myself. Those are co-composed. There's some instances where I do like have a thought and like chart it out and write it all out, but my goodness, like that collaborative process and what Quentin and Nat have to bring to the table is so valuable and idiomatic and masterful that we are, I think, greater than the sum of our parts because of their expertise.
And you could feel it just woven together. So that collaboration. Good on you guys.
Thank you.
I agree. You seem to really all gel together so well. So this is a food show, so I want to talk about food briefly. We did feature you on eatnorth.com about your favorite restaurant in Winnipeg, and I love talking about this. My co-hosts bug me about this, but I'm such a fanboy of Winnipeg. I think it is an amazing city. It has a phenomenal art scene, phenomenal music scene, obviously, and phenomenal food. What is your favorite place? If you had to pick somewhere to eat right after the show, where are you headed?
If I was going to go after the show. Okay, well, I do have plans tomorrow to eat at the Tallest Poppy. And you and I were talking about Tallest Poppy a little bit before. And it did make an appearance on my Eat North top 5 list, or the food I would eat in a day. So I have it all planned out. Tomorrow I'm going to do the fried chicken sandwich.
Good choice.
And they make the sandwich on this cheese bread.
Yes, it's so good. That cheese bread. I've had it. It's good. It's amazing.
Isn't it glorious?
Yes.
What a truly fantastic food. I can't describe it. It's like a soft bread. It's a white bread. It's so light, but it really has structural integrity, and it has these grated cheddar cheese bits in it. It is squarish shaped. It is ideal. I think it is ideal bread. Really does the job of holding the sandwich together. Is more than just the canvas for the sandwich, but really shows up itself. I can't say enough good things about this sandwich. I'm pumped.
I feel like the way you describe food might be better than I do, and it's my job. So I feel I am a bit worried for my job. Yep.
Sold it. I haven't had dinner now, and all I want is that sandwich.
Yeah.
Oh, and you're so far away. I'm so sorry. It will not mail well. I can tell you that.
And last question or comment that I want to make, Winnipeg, like I mentioned, has this very vibrant art scene. I think Synonym Art Consultation does some amazing stuff in your city. And I have to notice or make note of your beautiful single artwork. So was that a local artist that did that?
Thank you. Yes, that is a friend of mine and a longtime collaborator. Her name is Sarah Thiessen, and she is my favorite visual artist. Her sense of whimsy and joy and wonder at life, I think, comes out in every single piece that she makes, and it is such a pleasure to collaborate with her.
It's truly stunning stuff, and I cannot wait to hear your next single. Or is the next single Try, what you performed earlier?
That's it. So what we just saw in the video was a live performance with those trio mates, Nat and Quentin, at Winnipeg's West End Cultural Center, and we were performing a sneak peek, playing the whole album through ahead of this plan of releasing the songs one by one. And yes, that song is called Try, and that is the next single. So March 19th, that one is available just on every surface of the internet. All downloads.
Well, we are saving that. I can't wait to hear the produced version. Raine, thank you so much for chatting with us and for the song. Beautiful and so talented. I can't wait to hear the rest of the music that's here.
Such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for watching another episode of Eat North Friday Pack. I'm your host, Dan Clapson. My lovely co-hosts, Mairlyn Smith, Deepi Harish, will be back next Thursday with 2 brand new guests and some exciting conversation. See you then.
Eat North Variety Pack. Food and friends. condensed with Canada's best. From east to west, there and back. Eat North Variety Pack. 'Cause variety's the spice of life.